Day. It's Wednesday, and I'm hanging out here with my friend Max from Ecomtent. And Max, I don't even remember how we met. Oh,
We
AI
were
Business Summit.
introduced. We were introduced by Justin at PickFu. Shout out to Justin.
Oh, that's right. Shout out to PickFu. I love Justin and John over there at PickFu. They're awesome, and we use their tools a lot. So I was doing an AI business summit, and I reached out to Max and asked him to speak. And I learned that Max was into generative AI, which is really, he's started a company called Ecomtent, which is, really helping create e-commerce content specific for products and everything. And I know all of us have been playing with, or most of us have been playing with e-commerce images. We want to learn how to use AI to improve our images. So I'm excited to have Max on the show today. And we're just going to talk about, how can we, as e-commerce sellers, as brand owners, how can we generate better images with AI? How should we be looking at generative AI? And and maybe we'll even do a little demo today, stuff like that. But before we get into all of that, Max, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about you and how you ended up creating this AI platform?
Sure. So my background in all of this was Amazon. So I worked at Amazon for over 6 years. When I joined the company, I joined as an account manager. So I was working with sellers my first job in Amazon was actually new seller recruitment. So I'd be calling up people, getting them to launch on Amazon, and then helping them with their first shipment into FBA, helping them with their first listing, helping them with like their first Prime Day, all of that good stuff. This is like 7-8 years ago now, and yeah, like I kind of progressed through the company. I always worked in the 3P space. I was part of the team that launched Amazon Singapore. So I was out in Singapore. I was in charge of, this is probably 4 years ago now, I was in charge of the catalog quality. So I did a lot of helping set up the browse nodes and the various category and make sure that the IDQ, as we called it inside Amazon, was high quality. And that was a tough ask because of the marketplace itself in Singapore and the makeup of the sellers there. I won't go into more details, but it was a fun and challenging job. And I was actually talking about AI. My real first introduction at AI was in the Amazon Machine Learning University, which is a real thing. And they basically trained people internally on what AI is and using and how to use the software. And then eventually kind of my role started, I started to have to manage these AI tools as part of my role. So that's kind of a bit of my background. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, it's so cool to meet all of these different people from different backgrounds who have worked at Amazon. Because I met a lady from TikTok Shop the other day, and she used to work at Amazon. And it's just, there's so many, Amazon's such a big ecosystem, right? There's so many different people with different backgrounds and different platforms. So it's really cool meeting our former Amazonians that are doing big things in the world as well. So everybody, love having you here. Our viewers, make sure if you have questions as we move through today, talking about generative AI, we want to hear, how are you generating images with AI? Talk to us in the chat, say hello in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. So I would love to know, Max, just in general with AI, with generative AI, for an Amazon seller that's just starting to explore AI generated images, what would be your top 3 pieces of advice?
I think my first one would be to kind of recognize that the landscape is changing, right? We're living through what, in my opinion, is a generational shift. Like, I really believe this is, and this has kind of really been rehashed over and over now, but like on the scale of the printing press, on the scale of like mobile, it's a fundamental change that is happening. And therefore, number one is to recognize that firstly and foremostly. And I saw a poll done by McKinsey, and it's something like 90% of like companies they surveyed, big companies, are going to be implementing this in some way in 2 years. So it's happening. Like, if you're not thinking about, if you're not at least thinking about like how I should be approaching this, I would urge you to start. Would be number one. I think number two is experimentation. A lot of this stuff is in an experimental phase. That's why like Bard is a beta, Firefly is a beta. Everyone is in an experimental phase right now. And it's important to be doing that in the context of your business and your company, and your capabilities at your scale, but like to be experimenting. And that means different tools, but it also means like within the tools, like trying out different prompts. And I'm sure we're going to be talking about prompting a lot more. So I think I've said recognition, I said experimentation, and maybe then like expectation. I think it's important to know what AI can and can't do. It can create some amazing and beautiful things. It is at the same time, we're not. There are some limitations now, and I'm sure we'll talk about them. And it's moving fast. So I think those would be my three that I'd give to people.
Yeah. And, maybe we can also talk about some tools, that
Yes.
people are using and that people can use to get started. You talked about experimentation. You talked about, recognizing the capabilities and limitations. I've really had some fun playing with Midjourney. It's one of my favorite AI image generation tools. I've done a lot of talking on Midjourney, stuff like that. But often people will ask me things like, well, how do I edit my product image in Midjourney? And it's like, well, Midjourney isn't a photo editor.
No.
It's a generative, it's
Yeah.
an image generation tool, a new image generation tool. Now, new versions of it are coming out. Like last night, I took a really funny picture of my daughter at Wendy's. She was eating a Frosty and she had this like silly smile on her face where she looked like the old man from the movie Up.
Yeah.
And I took that and I uploaded, because the latest version of Midjourney, you can actually upload an image. So you just upload it and then you grab the URL and then you can add your prompt after that. And my prompt was, this image in the Pixar movie Up. And it literally like recolored the image and put her in the Pixar movie Up. And I should actually share that image. But what are your?
I love Midjourney. Well, I just say I absolutely love Midjourney. People don't realize this. It's a team of 11, so they're super lean. They're doing some incredible stuff. I hope one day to meet them at some point. I hope our paths cross, because what they're doing is just groundbreaking. And I think like they really sent shockwaves through like Adobe Photo, all these places. Like they really were kind of the archetype of like a disrupting startup where like everyone had to kind of sit up and be like, okay, like what's our plan now? So I'm a big fan of them. Sorry, I cut you off on the question, Amy.
Yeah, for sure. I completely agree. I'm a big fan too. I'll show you guys that picture that I did. So I just uploaded
I don't know what your daughter looks like, but
I uploaded a picture of Mariah and she had this frown on her face and she just looked really, really silly. But somehow it pulled, kind of her facial features and put her in the Pixar Up movie. And you can see that was my prompt. You can see it right down here in the Pixar movie Up. And what I put before the prompt was just the image itself. So it was really, really cute. And I thought,
like
wow,
an
okay,
afro?
I'm not editing the image, but the things that we can now do with images are, really, really cool. So in terms of tools, we have Midjourney, which is inside of a Discord server. There's so many new ones popping up as well. I've been playing with Adobe lately as well. And for certain fashion product design, I actually like Adobe better than Midjourney. For logos, I like Midjourney much better, for generative AI and logos. For website mockups, Midjourney is great. For packaging mockups, for storefront mockups, Midjourney is incredible. But Adobe is pretty cool too. They have some really cool, you can make custom 3D letters, all your own fonts, all kinds of cool things. And then, I've been using it for my A+ content as well to kind of pull things in and then generate little pieces. So, Max, your tool, Ecomtent, tell us a little bit more about your tool and what it's designed to do, because we had this question here about different product categories being good for specific tools. And I just talked about, for my A+ content, I like to use Adobe. For logos, I like to use Midjourney, and then I'll edit those. But let's talk about what Ecomtent is and what it's designed to do for e-commerce entrepreneurs, and how, what's it really good for?
Sure. So the vision at Ecomtent is pretty simple, and it's that we are building the best co-pilot for marketplace sellers to create and optimize listings. And our kind of like ethos in the company is to basically take the best of, there's a ton of incredible open source work that is happening across the scientific community, and my co-founder's a PhD in AI. And basically we are taking the real cutting edge, and we're applying that where relevant to e-commerce. We're building on top of that. We are building, like, we do train our own models in-house, but basically the way this AI works is you kind of have like 6 or 7 base models, as you mentioned, Midjourney being one, Stability being one, Adobe's built their own one, OpenAI, Anthropic, and we're like, so there's a number of base models. We're taking these and we're fine tuning them for e-commerce. So that's kind of like what our ethos is at Ecomtent. And yes, what we're very good at. Well, you talked about product categories. I think what we're best at is products where there'll be a lot of, I would say, common products. So there's a lot of examples of them in the sample data, in the training data, and therefore the AI is able to quickly recognize what this is and how it should be applied in a natural setting, with a human, with an animal, like outdoors, however it should be. So, chairs, tents, like bottles, I'm trying to think, kind of like serums, or like if you basically have something which is in its shape a non-complex item, that's what we're best at, because the AI recognizes that. But I would just say on that point, like, actually the way that AI thinks is about texture and not really about shape, which is counterintuitive to what I just said. But basically, if you have something which is kind of simply recognizable, it will do a great job with that product.
Yes, I think, like you said, with with a simpler product, that is one thing that layer
Yes.
can be pulled into, and you can generate a nice background behind it or around it.
Yes.
That is much easier than if you have 16 individual pieces that you're trying to put into an image. I mean,
which we couldn't do, to be honest. Like, if it's a board game and you have 16 individual pieces like that, that's not what we can do right now. But yeah, a whole single product, we can make beautiful imagery with. And as you say, like, basically our tool works slightly different to Midjourney. We take the product, we kind of like paint a scene from it, around it, based on the natural language prompt. So it kind of, you place the product in a certain area and then kind of create around that, reflections, lighting, like interaction with the background all naturally. So that's kind of like on a base level what's happening in our tech.
Yeah, and I think, what's important too is that, even if you have a really complex product, if you are, you've got this complex product that has 16 pieces to it, sales conversions are more about evoking a feeling. So when we think
Yes.
about lifestyle images, a lot of brand owners, they don't think about how your images don't necessarily have to have the product in it, right? Something that I generated in Midjourney was just an image of somebody actually running on the beach, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's, that could be used with a fitness supplement, with a health supplement, with any kind of health products. You want people to have that feeling. So
Yes.
can you share some examples of how these generative AI images, how people can use not even images necessarily, but their products in them? But what can people do? How can they use generative AI to lead to improved sales conversions? I'm seeing Amazon is even doing this. I have Fire TVs on all my TVs in my house, and they across the top, they have like kind of a banner that shifts out. And I see that Amazon is using generative AI images. They've got, a mom sitting on a chair and kids playing on the floor, and then, just something to evoke a feeling. And then they have some text. So I know people can definitely use this. Let's talk about ways for them.
I'm going to talk about that, and we should return to Amazon and AI because I have some comments on that point as well. But I guess we have some case studies on our website. I'll quote two. The first one was with.
Did you want to bring them up, Max? Did you want to share your screen and bring up the case study?
Sure, I can do. I can't. Oh, I'll bring up what I don't want to bore people, but I'll bring up one. So one of them is with a friend of mine, Sam, who the founder I actually worked with Amazon with for a few years, and we did a study on kind of putting their. I don't have an image of it, do I? We did a study of putting.
Yeah, I don't see your share screen anymore. I think you just have to re-bring it up here.
Here we go. So we did a study on their here we go on their Instagram and how putting like generative AI images would compare. How do we go? Okay, this is not working as well as I hoped to because how it could compare versus their other images. And I don't know if you can see on this page here which one is ours and which one is theirs. But I'll give you a clue.
Okay, so this is a brand's Instagram profile,
and we did a study on like how our AI generated images would compare versus the rest of them, and we had 4.5 times as many profile visits based on our AI ones. This is generated by us. This one I can't click on it. This is here, and I can show you another brand.
I can definitely tell that that's generative AI, but it looks really good. And I think that for me, I can tell because I've been working with generative AI for a little while, but I don't think the common person can see that. And look at the lifestyle background we see there. We see, people having dinner at a nice restaurant, but the product is still the star in the shot, which is so cool.
And I'll just show another brand. And again, like I think this will illustrate my point, which is why generative AI can be more engaging. Oh God, come on, stop doing this. Oh, it's not going to go on my personal Instagram, is it? That'd be embarrassing.
Instagram really doesn't like the desktop.
Yeah,
it's a pain.
Have I gone past? Okay, so here in this one here, one of these images is created by AI. The rest of them are not.
Okay, let me see if I can I guess? Let's see.
Yes. You're going to get it right, Amy.
Is AI and the other is not.
1 in the 6 here.
1 in the 6. Okay. Is it the one with the tent and the sky?
Yes, that was ours. And then 1 here as well.
Okay, let me see. Is it the one with the elf on the shelf?
This one. Here
really? That looks natural to me.
I think the point is like you can do amazing things, right? You can put it in crazy lighting, you can do like beautiful mount, like you could never get a tent to like the top of Mount Everest. Well, I mean you could, but like it's going to be a crazy expensive shoot, right? And I think that's kind of like, that's the kind of thing. Another thing where we have like what we've betted on big at Ecomtent, and I like we continue to do so against some kind of, you know, we review this every day. It's like we want to put the power in the customer hand, and want to put the power to let them like express their imagination and creativity. And this comes at a cost, right? Because it's not easy to prompt, and like, you know, like we have 3 prompt engineers in house. Like I do this all day, every day. Like it's a skill. It's a skill that you have to learn. But I think the point is, like, in doing it that way, you can enable this like beautiful, and like your imagination. Imagine you're this brand owner, and you're like, I want to put my thing on a mountain, then I want to be on a beach, and all. Like you can enable the person to do that, and it's kind of like, it's amazing, and it's really kind of game changing. I guess the struggle is that like the person has to know how to prompt, and if you have a kind of, I don't want to say casual, but like if you have someone who's never done this before and they turn up to our site, they might be a bit confused, because they're like, what happens? Like, you know, it's just like you drop the picture in and I write something. So I think that's yeah, definitely, that's a trade-off that we think, that like I think about, and but yeah.
Yeah, and I think this question kind of lines up with that. Is how can we ensure that our created lifestyle images match the product and the seller's brand identity?
Yes.
And you know, that those images you just showed us of the tents, I mean,
Yeah.
the one with the sky was so beautiful. And you know, I think it is on the brand owner to know their customer, to know their market, and also for them to, like you said in the beginning when you were giving your 3 tips, experiment, learn, you know, kind of learn how to do prompting before you go to a service like Ecomtent. You still need to know a little bit how to prompt. You need to know a little bit about generative AI, so that you're not disappointed when you type something in and you totally confuse the AI, and it's just like giving you what you asked for, but you don't know how to ask for it, right? So let's give some prompting tips for generative AI. I mean, for me, what I do is I start in ChatGPT having a conversation to start an idea, right? So that's how I start with my prompting journey. Before I even turn to generative AI, I start in either Bard or ChatGPT, something like that, and I go, okay, I'm trying to do this. I'm this type of brand. These are my customers. This is where I sell, you know, on Amazon, in stores. And this is what I'm trying to convey. Can you help me come up with some ideas of how I might convey that in my marketing, on a website, in an image, whatever I'm trying to do? If I'm trying to create A+ content, I say, design a landing page for me. Help me design a landing page. But I don't just say design a landing page. I say, I'm this type of brand. I'm doing this kind of thing. This is what I'm trying to convey. This is how I'm trying to connect with the customer. Now help me design a landing page, describe it in great detail. Then from there, once I have this kind of overview and I look at the options, then I go over and I apply that to the technology that I'm using. So if I'm using Midjourney, I remember the prompting there. I use Midjourney documentation to learn the prompts. I go into the Discord server, look at other people's prompts. I love to go to Midjourney, explore and view other people's prompts and what they did to kind of give me an idea. Sometimes I'll just copy and paste directly from ChatGPT. It's not the best solution because it won't always give you the best result, but it's a good start. And then you can see what it generates and you can start playing with it. But I'd be interested, somebody of your experience, Max, what is your how should people learn prompting?
Yeah. Well, I think you touched on a number of them, and I think I'll start by kind of echoing what you said, which is it's important to understand like the model that you're using. So you mentioned there 3, I think you mentioned at least 2, Midjourney and ChatGPT, right? I think it's important to like, just, you don't need to be a scientist, but you just need to conceptually think like, what was this model trained on? how is it trained, and therefore what can I expect to get out of it from what I'm getting into it. And that's like a really important starting point. So for ChatGPT, for example, we know that it was trained on, well, we don't know what it's trained on, but we think it's been trained on scraped data from the internet. Like that's kind of apparently what it's been trained on. So therefore you can kind of assume that it's, and it's kind of trained up to a certain point. I remember at one point it was like up to 2021. I can't remember what it is now, but like they might have been up. They might actually have it updated now. But knowing that will help you like frame your prompting. Like if you ask about a celebrity that's turned up in the last 5 minutes, it might not know what you're talking about, right? Whereas like things where they're going to have a lot of material on, like best restaurants in France, it's going to be able to give you an extremely detailed and good answer from all the data it's been trained on. And on like a second point of Midjourney, it's like they have a very unique style in the prompting. They've built their own model. They have like this different kind of prompting language from ChatGPT and others. It's more kind of like, well, because of Discord nature of the tool, really, it's slightly different, right? So it's kind of, again, talking about understanding the different models. I'd add the second point is experimentation, which is kind of like a meta theme when we talk about generative AI, which is it's an iterative process. It will take the variation and the experimentation, as you mentioned, Amy, to get your desired output. It's extremely unlikely you're going to get that in one shot. So it's about typing, seeing what's happened, and then saying, I like this bit, I didn't like that bit. And if it's a text model, then you can feed that back into the machine. If it's not a text model, you can then be more specific in your prompt. So let's say you had a beautiful, like on artwork, like a beautiful mountain shot, but like it was dark and you wanted to be light, then you can say in the daytime, and you can kind of add to the prompt more and more to get to where you want to go. I guess I can talk about the anatomy of a prompt, maybe as the third piece here. Like we've done a lot of research internally and how we should how best to structure them when it comes to like trying to specifically getting like a product image in a scene. And there's kind of three things we recommend here: is a subject, a scenario, and a descriptor. And basically the structure should be subject, so like my product, and that should be like a tent or a water bottle, whatever it is. Like just name, you don't have to name like your brand, because the AI isn't going to know your brand probably. But like if you just name like the generic thing that it is, a chair, a table, whatever, then you're going to at least tell the AI, right, this is what I'm doing in scenario, and this is how it should interact with the scene. So maybe it's on a dressing table, it's on a kitchen, it's on a mountainside. Like how specifically are you interacting with your scenario? And then you want to have your like descriptors. So this is like your camera lenses or the lighting or like people in the background or however else, like whatever the description to that is. And that's kind of what we've seen is that going subject, scene, or location, then descriptors is the best way to on our tool at least.
Are you there, Max?
Yeah, can you hear me? I can hear you fine.
Yep, I hear you. Yep.
Yeah.
So you were saying the subject and then the scene. So the subject could be the chair, the cat, the
Yes.
whatever, right? Your product. And then the scene on a mountain, right?
Exactly.
But then how it should interact with the scene, which would
Yes.
be, so for example, that image you showed us of the tent on the mountain, give us an example prompt for that
for that specific image
on a mountain.
I would say tent on a snowy mountain. So it knows there's a mountain, it's got snow on it. And then I would say like bright sunlight or something like this, or maybe like snowy day if I wanted snow, or like a landscape scene because I wanted to get that whole background. So then I would, or maybe the camera lens, so 34mm camera, because that's a camera that you take on landscape. And that's actually a good point on the training. Like on the training data, including I would imagine in Midjourney, the tags that the images have will have like camera lenses on, so they'll be training on images. I hope they for their sakes they bought these images, but these images will have will have labels, and therefore like tagging the actual camera label like Nikon or a Canon or like a camera is going to tell the AI to get you a better image based on, because it's matching it to a photograph.
Got it. So basically we want the subject, which is the chair, the scene, the snowy mountain, or the tent, right? In the scene, the snowy mountain, and then our interaction with that. And ensuring that, you know, we're really talking about that, kind of like I did with the picture of Mariah. I said, you know, I want you to take this subject, this picture, the URL of the picture, and put it in the Pixar movie Up. Now, had I said something else like, you know, sitting at a table, you know, in the Pixar movie Up, then, you know, that's more specific. But I just gave it in the Pixar movie Up. So then it actually put her at a table, even though she was at a table in the initial picture that I uploaded. So, you know, it's kind of cool to play around with different things and see what generative AI gives you, and then also, you know, be a little bit more specific. And that's why I love putting a prompt in there and then playing around with the prompt a little bit to see. So Max, I would love to know, as far as, you know, using AI technology, how can Amazon sellers keep their product images updated with current trends, seasonal changes, demographic shifts?
Yeah, I think right now there isn't an automated way of doing this. I think right now like generative AI is an amazing tool because you can make 1,000 images in 10 minutes, right? Like, and that's not really my maths might be bad, but it would take us an average 7 seconds on our tool to make an image. So like you can make, you know, 10 a minute, right? Like you can make so many images in a short space of time. So I don't think there's an automated solution right now, which is plugging in everything, but you certainly have the power to like manage this yourself. So whereas it might have been very painful to make one listing in the past, and you have to organize your photography, then you have to get your copywriter, then you have to get your agency to the A+ content, and like all of that is a massive faff. Now you can do that, you know, and it might take you 10 minutes to do it all, right? You get a draft. AI is not perfect now, so you'd probably want to like check it yourself and edit it a bit, but you could do that quite comfortably in 5-10 minutes. And then the question is, so okay, now you've saved all this time, you can then go and say, oh, it's now Christmas, so I'm going to like, you know, put everything with Santa, like a Christmas tree in the background, and I'm going to change all my keywords to be Christmas, and like I'm going to like we have a listing tool, right? You can put in like Christmas and gifts for him and whatever, and like rewrite the copy with the right keywords. So right now, I'd say it's, you know, the tools are there to enable sellers to take this on themselves, and like I would reinvest the time that you saved in like the logistics into this optimization piece.
Definitely. I think, you know, before it was so much harder for us. We'd either have to find a stock image and try to Photoshop our product into it. But you now with Ecomtent and with generative AI in general, you can now come up with 10 different pictures of different Christmas scenes or,
Yes,
you know, holiday scenes. And then you can add your product to it or your logo to it. You can do lifestyle images. You can do the, you know, a lit up street, you know, in a small town. You know, you can get any look and feel for your brand in a matter of minutes for it very inexpensively. And, you know, I think that that's an incredible thing. And what I noticed that Ecomtent does well compared to other generative AI tools is that you can work with those layers very easily. So you can have your product and then you can put that background behind it. Where if they're working with Midjourney, it's not as easy to like upload your product into Midjourney because Midjourney will regenerate the product itself. So just like that picture of Mariah that I showed earlier, it completely regenerated her. It wasn't her again, you know? So with Ecomtent, I think it's pretty cool because people can actually take that image. And I don't know if you wanted to share your screen and show, you know, how easy that can be using Ecomtent.
So here is our beautiful tool. I hope that the streaming allows us to go quickly, because I know it's going to now take ages. But broadly, the way it works is you drop in your product, like this dog food. You can then resize the product in the final image and shift it around. You can then put any prompt. So what's your favorite dog, Amy?
Well, I'm not a dog person. I'm a cat person, but
you had to pick one.
I do like a dachshund. I think dachshunds are pretty cool.
How do I spell that?
That's a good question. I think it's DACHSHUND.
I'll say.
I had to pick the hardest dog name to spell.
So you'll see here, I've used the same, I haven't done it in the same order, but I've kind of said, like, AI does read from, you know, the same way as humans, with the first things being first and therefore, and so forth. So therefore, in this image, I wanted to really get a good photo of the dog. So I put that first. But then I've said, like, pretty quickly, like, sitting next to the packet of the dog food.
Aww.
I should have done it on precise mode, but I'll show you those in a second. And we have two different modes here, which is, one is precise, which stops all the hallucinations, like you were mentioning in Midjourney, like, we do not touch the product. So what you put in is what you're going to get out. And that's really what we've been focusing on building, because in the early days we didn't do that, and we got the results. So here we see, I guess that's probably the best one. This one,
that one's really nice.
It's got it a bit. The sizing is a bit off in that one, but we have, like, that one's not bad. I guess this one's I'd say, like, now I'm looking at this and I'm thinking it's actually not detailed enough. So I'm going to add in, like, highly detailed image, because to me, there's two problems. First of all, this is not a photograph, and it works best with photographs going in. But secondly, like, I know that having viewed that and wanting to get it a bit more high def, then I'm just going to, like, add that like at the end of the prompt to kind of to improve that side. So yeah, I put in here we go, these.
Aww. And I think it's really important for people to note as well that in general, generative AI is not perfect yet with like the legs of animals and stuff. So some of it's going to look like this one that you have here on the right looks really nice. Like it looks awesome, you know. But the other thing that you're showing us here is that generative AI is not perfect.
No, we make no pretendings to be. I would say, like, I would hope if you generated 3 images on our tool, one would be good.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like a 33% hit rate.
And then the other thing that you showed us, though, so number one, we've shown it's not going to be perfect the first time, but you've also shown we can tweak, we can learn different things, we can try different things, we could try different dog breeds, because dachshunds are kind of funny little animals as it is, you know. So we can, you know, try different things and see what's going on. And, you know, definitely play around with different scenes and different things. And that's the thing is, if we compare this to photography, you know, if I had to get a model dachshund to sit there perfectly next to a bag of dog food, you know what I mean? Like, this is so much faster and easier, right? So now you have the German Shepherd. Aww, how cute. Yeah, so it's great to be able to, you know, use generative AI to generate images quickly. Now, can we talk about the legalities, Max? Can we talk about, you know, can I use these images and how can I use them? How does that work?
So we've done I think there's a number of different things here. I'd say first of all, we have taken some extra precautions on the base level. The model we've chosen to train on a model where there's an opt-out. So I don't think Midjourney has this. I don't think ChatGPT have this, but Stability has this, where if you don't want your image being trained on, you can take it out of Stability. So we chose that model, partly because we think the images are great to fine tune on, and partly because we felt the most secure with it in that sense. Secondly, we've taken one of the biggest, I say, ethical questions here is on this artistic style. So it's not illegal to copy an artistic style. For example, in that Up example, right? The creators of Up can't trademark the stylistic visuals of Up. They don't, even though they created that, you can't trademark a Picasso style or a Monet style or whatever. So yes, we're not lawyers on this. I mean, I
had to add the disclaimer.
One of the pains of being a founder is I spent some time today with lawyers. I spent some time yesterday with I spend time with lawyers. So I kind of I'm echoing what I've been told, and my lawyers will hate it for me saying that, but it's true. Where was I? So yes, we've taken extra steps at Ecomtent to take out these artistic styles. We're trying to create photorealistic images, and we have taken extra steps to mean that you're not going to be infringing on that ethical issue of creating something in thank you, Larry, creating something in a style of someone else. I'd say a third thing which we're exploring, and I'm going to give a shout out to My Likeness AI. It's another AI company, and they have an ability to basically allow people, me and you, Amy, or anyone, Larry, or anyone listening, to basically give them the license to train on their images. You send them a few images of you, and therefore all of the humans that come out of it, of the AI model, have been legitimately kind of agreed to be agreed to participate. So that's an even more layer of security that we're in talks with some big clients. That's an option on the table for them. Should it's not a requirement, but should you want that extra comfort blanket of even the humans coming out of these images to be all kosher, then that's an option as well. So I think I would find, so that's kind of what we talk about, legal and ethical. And then in the regulation side, we're watching this closely. Our company is based in Canada, so we're not an EU company. I feel the pain of my fellow EU founders. I think the EU regulation, which is being drafted now, is extremely prohibitive. And they are, I've been explained to it by a lawyer, so I might be misquoting it, but as I understand it, you basically need to get a license to do some trading. It's going to take you 3 months to get a license. In a startup, you don't have 3 months, right? 3 months to get a license and back and forth, that's killer. So I really feel bad for the for if this does come into law, and I hope it doesn't in the EU. I feel bad for those companies because every model we have right now would be illegal. ChatGPT would be illegal. Stability would be illegal. Literally everyone would be illegal under this new regulation. So I'm not sure what will happen there if they do pass it, but that would be a shame for anyone in Europe. And I will finally shout out the UK, where I'm from, and Japan, to be fair. But the UK have taken some incredible steps to be I'd say between the UK and Japan, the most AI friendly companies, and they've done a whole bunch of legislation, which means you can copyright the output of this AI. So as an AI creator, you can protect yourself against under normal copyright laws, and a bunch of other things to in terms of just making it really friendly for using AI. So it's a patchwork in terms of regulation. Nothing's here yet, but there's a divergence on the EU side, which I think they call rule-based in the legal world, and then the UK, US, Japan, which is called principle-based, which is basically saying, here are the principles, don't hurt anyone, and we'll kind of leave it to you. to make sure that you're not breaking any existing laws. So that's kind of
I would
my
say,
take.
like, in general, it's really good advice. And I would say in general, like, people should look at the platform that they're using. And as we've said this whole time, understand its capabilities, understand its limitations, get an idea of how it works and how it's trained and how to prompt it. And most of this, if not all of it, is in the documentation. So, if you're working with Adobe, if you're working with Midjourney, if you're working with Ecomtent, like, look at the documentation, look at the help, because it will tell you in general, like, how can you use these images, and how do you use the tool, So I'm always, in the prompt chat. I'm always on ChatGPT's prompt chats. I'm in Midjourney's prompt chats, and then not only that, I always bring up the documentation and just learn from that, and then learn from other people's examples as well, like some of the examples you showed us today. Larry, thanks for your comment about the prompting tips being helpful for you. So as we close today, Max has a special offer. If you guys want to try Ecomtent,
Yes.
so you're going to go to ecomtent.ai. And you can use Amazing 20 to get 20% off. And you can try this for your product images. These guys are a new startup. They're doing big things. They've got a ton of work put into this, and they're very passionate about what they do. So I know every time I'm complaining to Max and I'm like, what is this? I don't understand this. How do I make this work? He is so happy to answer my questions and, be so helpful. He's a great leader in the space, and we're just rooting for you guys. You guys have big plans for Ecomtent, and I know that you're going to help all of us make better e-commerce content. So thank you, Max.
And to echo, I guess, in your first question in the last one, like, one of the big things that Amazon taught me was customer obsession. Like, that was, I think I felt the culture at Amazon slightly change over the time I was there. But like, when we're talking early 2010s, it was customer obsession, like ultra focus on the customer. Like, we literally used to have like a spare chair in the meetings for, when we're reviewing documents and that would kind of be I mean, it sounds crazy. It sounds almost religious, but like, to symbolize, like, this is, the customer, like, what would the customer be saying about this? How would they think about the table? And that was like number one on, and Jeff used to say, like, you start with the customer and you work backwards. Like, what do they need? What's the pains? And that's kind of the approach that we're trying to take it at Ecomtent as well. And I think that's maybe my biggest kind of lesson from my time there.
I think in general, that's such a great piece of advice for every single startup and brand owner out there, is be customer obsessed, because we really do have to listen. If we get a bad review, it's not always an attack from our competitors. Sometimes it's a customer who doesn't feel appreciated, who feels like they wasted their money, whatever, and we can learn from those things. We can, try and improve and, really try to connect with our customers, which is what generative AI is all about. It's allowing us to build that special connection with our customers that we might not be able to do if we don't have the budget to create the, tent on the mountain, underneath the lights, right? So it's really a beautiful opportunity that we all have, and we're excited to embrace it. Thank you so much, Max, for being on the show today. Thank you, everybody.
It's been great fun. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for playing around. I love, playing with this. I'm excited. We have a Q4 Mastery Summit coming up, where we're going to, cover a lot more stuff with AI, but also more stuff focused on e-commerce in general, because before we know it, Q4 is right around the corner. So you guys, keep your eye out for that. We'll be announcing that shortly. We also have our upcoming China trip coming. Max is thinking about joining us in China as well.
So. I would love to. I've always wanted to go to China. Genuinely.
Yes, it's such a fun trip. And, we haven't been back to China since the pandemic. So I'm excited to go back and check everything out. And hopefully we'll get to hang out there. So you guys can go to amazingathome.com/China to read more about our China trip. That's in October. And then we've got the Q4 Mastery Summit coming up before then. So Really just excited for that and excited to have even more content coming to you guys here on these Wisdom Wednesdays. And thank you so much for being here, everybody. We'll see you next week. Have a great day. Bye, everybody.